It's midday right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Lunchtime Politics. We bring you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity at midday. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Let's get started with the big stories with the headlines. I'm a Democrat. President Bola Tinubu declares as he defends the signing of the Electoral Act 2026. Says robust, divergent debate is the beauty of democracy. House of Representatives amends Section 77 of the Electoral Act 2026, barring dual membership of political parties by persons ahead of the primaries and general election. Thanks again for joining us. President Tinubu has again reiterated his democratic credentials and stands, declaring that he's a die-hard Democrat. He spoke at the interfaith breaking of fast in the presidential villa in Abuja, where he hosted the leaders of the APC, members of the National Working Committee of the party, and the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC. The president also made clear the necessity of the rule of law and the peace and stability of the country.
It was against me years past. I told the line. I was in opposition without a threat to any human being except military junta. And I want democracy. We are guided by the same law, no difference. That I signed the Electoral Act. I have no choice. I don't want to throw the country into turmoil of argument of nothing. There is an overwhelming majority by the National Assembly that passed the law. If I have serious question or reservation about it, I will have raised it, but I have not. I have submitted myself to the principle of rule of law, democracy. I signed. The rest is history. We meet at the polls. The game is sweet. Only when you are winning.
President of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, the part that's very amusing, and it's true. The game is sweet when you're winning, and his party is winning, and so for him the game is sweet. And I'm not sure the ADC rather, or the PDP are smiling at the moment, but they say the game is the game. Let's talk about what is playing out as part of the institutional game. Perhaps the Green Chamber of the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, is further amending the Electoral Act. This one has to do with restraining members or politicians from being members of two political parties. Now it goes with consequence. You cannot be part of two political parties. As a matter of fact, if that is your court, you will not be in any, and there's a fine of about 10 million or imprisonment. Let's take a listen to the debate on the floor.
I'm a PDP member today, but yesterday the chairman of APC said he has sent me a registration card. ADC have sent me one as well. And I didn't ask anyone to do for me.
APC has sent you what?
See, the issue is they can use that, maybe, probably, and take it to court.
It boils down to law of evidence. And which aspect of evidence, what is admissible? Your communication, letter of communication to the party will become evidential. When you communicated, become evidential. When they receive it, becomes evidential. That will guide you in your defense.
Where the commission detects that a person is registered in more than one political party, the commission shall notify the affected political party. The individual shall, within 14 days, elect in writing one political party to retain membership. Because we must guarantee the freedom of association.
Well, I'm just taking a look at some things in the provisions of the Constitution and looking at all the debates on all sides. But let's get to the conversation for the day. It has to be politics because it's a political show. Mr. Audu Maikori is a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a music executive. That's what we know him for. Now he's putting his heart in the ring to join the political race. He joins us, no, not virtually, he joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Maikori, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I understand that there's an aspiration in the works in 2027. So let me begin with what is already playing out in the direction you're looking into, and that has to do with the Electoral Act amendment. There were so many controversies about that Electoral Act, as far as, I think, Section 60 sub 3 that has to do with electronic transmission of results, and then it has now been passed with a proviso that is still generating controversy. There's a Section 84 that had to do with some element around the primaries of political parties. It used to be 3 options: direct, indirect, and consensus. Well, it's been narrowed down to the direct and, of course, the consensus. And then the element that has to do with Section 77, now there's an amendment or an addendum, if you will, additional to say you can't belong to 2 political parties. Because what happens most of the time is that when a politician loses in this particular party, doesn't get the ticket, he runs to the other party. So your subsection 2 will say, get a digital and a physical copy. It must arrive at INEC in subsection 4, 21 days to the election. Subsection 7, if you fail to do that, you are not eligible to contest in that election. I'm just touching through some of the highlights. There are so many provisions, over 155 or so provisions with 3 schedules. But what is the highlight for you? And on this issue that has controversial elements, what are your general comments?
Well, thanks so much for the opportunity. I think that that's the beauty of democracy, is the ability for people, representatives of the people, to come up with provisions that further secure and deepen the democracy. I'm of the view that I'm very much in agreement with the latest provision around you can't have duality of parties. And we see that there's a lot of cross-cutting between parties because someone's ambition hasn't been realized in one platform, so we move to the next one. I think it's really important for us to begin to practice the politics of ideology. I was reading a comment recently, and someone said, look, there's no difference between all these parties. They're the same. It's just different players that go back and forth. I think this provision will help to further kind of secure and make parties and party members be sure and to stick to something that is ideological and not just selfish for your immediate political interest. In terms of I watched with amusement what Mr. President said around the provisions and passing the Electoral Act. And I think it makes sense. I mean, if majority of the House of Representatives are of this view, and there's an assumption, or shall I say a presumption, that they are representing the interests of their people, then it makes sense that it should be passed without so much ado. But what is critical is around the practicalities of an election system, whereby sometimes real-time transmission is not available. There are real logistic issues around conducting elections as well. And I think that is what the proviso tries to address, which is, if this fails, then what is the fail-safe going forward?
Mr. Maikori, I'm going to be taking you on issues with because I think your credential is as clear as crystal when you led Chocolate City, and we know the outcome of your leadership of Chocolate City, the people you produce. So you are one of the persons now that we say, okay, he's going to politics, we can trace his record. He has something that he has built from ground zero up to where it became a national thing at the end of the day. So with that in mind, one of the things I would like to find out from you is, when people are making decisions, or the National Assembly, for instance, are making decisions, and one of the problems we used to find is that when it comes to contentious, vexed, divisive issue, even when the polity is divided over it, sometimes you see the lawmakers are united over it. So we're asking ourselves, is somebody trying to gaslight the other person? If the nation is divided, but the lawmakers are united, is it the people against the lawmakers, or there's something else working? I'm going to somewhere with that question about what would you propose to make a difference in tracking the convictions of persons who are sitting in our legislature to know how exactly they follow through with their conscience on issues besides the ayes and the nays?
My background. Between 2012 and 2015, I was on the board of the Shorepy program, under President Goodluck Jonathan. I was the youngest board member there. And in that position, I was responsible for a program called Community Services Women and Youth Employment Program, which was 37 states. I was responsible for deploying 118,000 young people and 22,000 graduate interns. So basically, I have worked on the national level before. Most people know me for music, but at the back of the end, at the background, I was a lawyer. I'm 25 years in the bar today. And I also worked on key infrastructure programs. So I worked on the Lamata Railway Red Line. I worked on the Nigerian Railway Concession, the Nigerian Ports Authority concessions as well. And I also worked on the Abuja Rail Mass Transit Program. And that's just to show that beyond the music, I've done quite a few things on the national level, been responsible for regulation and other things. So just to set the record straight, that I do understand a bit more than just making hits and making young people successful. But more importantly, I understand how young people operate and what is needed for them. Young people need inspiration. They need opportunities. They're not looking for handouts. The reason why we're having so much unrest is because there are there aren't enough ways and social safety nets that safeguards the people, and they have to resort to anything to ensure that they're able to make a living for themselves. Now, let's talk about how representatives actually truly represent their people. One thing that I found is that there's the politics of the inner chamber, the chamber, and there's the politics of the people. I think there's a huge disconnect between when a representative representative is appointed or voted by his people, because there's no feedback after that. They're busy sitting in the chambers, they're passing laws, but sometimes I think there's a disconnect between what the people actually need and what they're doing in the chamber. And I think that is what we need to correct. And in my strategy is simply vision, action, and results. Now, how do you get the vision? You have to talk with the people. You have to relate with them. One thing that I'm going to do if I get the opportunity to serve my people is to have quarterly meetings in my constituencies, because things change in real time. You're not aware that maybe a road is more important at this point in time than maybe a hospital, or a certain kind of employment is more useful strategically, geographically or demographically than the other. And you can't do that once you just go there once in a while to give, shall I say, gifts or empowerment. I think it's critical to look at long-term job creation for people. And the laws and the policies that we pass must be tailored to the people, because after all, we're there to represent our people. We're not representing just our interests. So I think that has to change. And if I get the opportunity to serve my people, it is going to change in how I deal with people. Feedback, real-time dashboards where people can look at project by project, how much is being spent and what your representative is doing. And this is the only way I think, in this world of data and fast information and being able to relay data very quickly, the people can track what their representatives are doing. And if they're not doing well, then you have the chance to recall them.
Crystal, so two things I want to broadly speak about when it comes to you and your aspiration. And let's come to your aspiration. We know the campaigns haven't started, primaries haven't been done. We have some mileage to cover as far as people with aspiration is concerned. But talking about Zangon Kata, for instance, looking through the numbers, I know there was a data that came out from, I think, Atiap Community Development Association, known as AGDA, when they said between 2017 also and 2023, over 500 people were killed, about 18 villages were burned, 20 were displaced. The numbers, we're grateful to God that the those incidences have tapered, at least under this current administration, passed better than the previous one. But what is it that happened that made you to say, Audu Maikori, besides all I've done at the back end and what young people know me for, I think it's time for me to step out and do something at a bigger scale?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've had these calls for over 10, 15 years. Come out, step out, but I wasn't ready, because I think, and that is the thing with my campaign, is I say lokaci yayi in Hausa, which means it's time. The time is right now. Because you also have to build capacity. You also have to get experience. You have to go through certain things to be prepared to lead people, because it's a big trust that is placed upon you. Now, when you look at the Atia people, if you look at Zango Katav especially, it's been probably one of the most ravaged places in terms of insecurity. The government, and I think what changed, I think, is not just increased security. I think it's the leadership in Kaduna that's actually changed a lot. Because people want to be included. People need to be able to give you feedback. You should be able to also act upon what they say, which is what I'm talking about, inclusive leadership. And I think Governor Obasani, not even I think, it is clear that he has changed the style of governance, and we can see real-time development in all these places. Now imagine a road, I'll give you a simple example. There's a road that the governor launched less than a month ago along Zonkwa, that access in Zango. These are roads that were potholed that you would have to basically stop the car and crawl through. Now these are the hotspots for terrorists and for robbers to come and attack people and kill them. The fact that these roads have been increases the economic power of people, increases access. People can get real-time help. They can travel back and forth in literally 20, 30 minutes for a journey that used to take 2.5 hours. And the people are now a bit more reassured that the government does care about what they're doing. So for me, it's about, we've been talking about, and it's easy to be an activist. I've been an activist most of my life, but it's time to also talk and do. And in my view, it's a time for us to take our people to the next level. There's been a lot of inclusion, but sometimes it's really about long-term empowerment and not just what happens during political periods where people just give rice and they give these palliatives, which are good, but it's not sustainable. And in my view, it is time to bring the expertise I've grown around the world, managing federal and international projects to the people. So focus on women participation in politics, that's really key. We don't have, in the Green Chamber today, we have less than 10%, probably 6% that are women. We need women to be empowered because they are the bedrock of the society. We are going to focus on ginger, maize, and yam agriculture because the average Southern Kaduna person is a farmer. But access to markets, the right fertilizer, the right technology to grow and scale agriculture is missing. I believe that the relationships and my experience, I can bring that to bear. When you look at the youth restiveness and the unemployment, we need to start training our young people for things that actually can feed them and not just a pure academic thing. I remember when I started my career as in music as a lawyer, everybody laughed at me and said, how can a lawyer be following artists? That means you're not serious. It's a waste of time. Today, probably the biggest PR Nigeria has received is from this creative sector, through the films, through the music, and through the creative arts as well. So I intend to bring this expertise, my knowledge of running national projects across 37 states. And I had the task of going to every single state to oversee and make sure that people were engaged. The graduate internship scheme, for example, was actually studied abroad because it was the first time where we gave young people who didn't have, because there's a bit of a conundrum, like you can't get a job if you don't have experience. But then how do you get experience when you don't have a job? So the internship was actually that right intervention that made sure that we gave companies, private sector companies, interns for free. You train them, but we pay for everything. So I think that these are things that can be implemented within the constituency as well.
Ms. Maikori, of course, we're just binging through because this is our first conversation. The coming days will tell. And of course, I know you have your plan, but the people have expectations of you. Both those of us who have seen you from afar and know what you've done, and those who are close to you have expectations. So I'm going to narrow it down to those public expectations as well. As you rightly noted, Zangon Kataf was literally a crime scene. But in this aspiration, consultation, stakeholders, the governor, does he have a nod in your direction?
No, the governor has been very clear that he has no candidates. He's made several statements about that. What I can remember, however, is that his body language has been very clear. I do not belong to any part of Kaduna. I belong to every person in Kaduna. If you can bring improvement, I will support you. So I think it's an open race. It's going to be one of those situations where the best man or woman should win. And I'm happy for that opportunity that is not already preset, that I have a chance like any other person to contest.
2 to 3 more issues before I let you go. Let's talk about the creative economy, which is what I guess a lot of people would know you for. And we must thank you for taking the bet on the industry when nobody gave it a chance. Now we have what it is today. I was looking at the GDP numbers. Q4 2025, the economy grew by over 4%. Annualized, the economy last year grew about 3.8%. The creative industry, art and entertainment in this case, grew by about 9%, but its contribution to a GDP itself was significantly low, 0.30 or 0.33%. And I know that if you're fortunate to make it to the National Assembly, a lot of people will looking at you say, okay, we know you from where you're coming from. What exactly are you going to do to give a boost to the sector that has always said they don't have the kind of support they need? They built from ground zero. Government just jumped in. They succeeded despite government, and government is just trying to FOMO in. But how can we give structure to it?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, one thing I must say about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that, I mean, aside from many other things, this administration has hired probably the youngest demographic of leaders across board. We must give him that. And that means that the leadership is closer to the people. Now, think about the average age of the youth. You're 19 years old, that's 70% of Nigeria's population. So the younger the leaders, the more access and the more they can relate with the people. But beyond that, I think is the creation of the Ministry for Creative Economy that is a landmark achievement of this administration, because it now pushed the creative sector from amusement, entertainment, to real economic conversation. So you see that there's a whole work there. The Honorable Minister for Culture and Tourism has done, and Creative Economy has done a great job, and she set a target for $100 billion over the next couple of years. And we believe those numbers are really achievable because the youth is the power of Nigeria. We're talking about literally 150 million people or more who are under the ages of 35. Now, what do we do with this? We need to empower them, but they're fundamental infrastructure issues. But within this time, we've seen grants and business loans from the BOI. We've seen the IDICE program. We're seeing what Nexim Bank is doing. We're seeing what even Afri-Exim Bank has put into the creative sector, about $2 billion over the past 3 years. These are not by mistake. It is a signal of the times, a signal of what this potential can be. If I am blessed to be in the House, I will push for clearer policies with respect to how we monetize IP. You see, intellectual property is closely linked to GDP growth. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we've not been able to harness the IP regime. So it means that there's poor enforcement, there's poor protection, and the safeguards aren't there. So it means that even if you create, imagine if Facebook was launched in Nigeria under the past regime, it would have been hard to enforce those things because there's no funding for the sector. There isn't enough funding. So I think funding for the Nigerian Copyright Rights Commission is very crucial. A partnership with the NCC, the Communications Commission, is crucial as well. I think that there's funding that can be unlocked to power the creative arts sector. We're seeing the launch of the National Theatre, or Wole Soyinka Theatre in Lagos, which is potentially easily $10 million generating business a year if properly financed. A lot of work has gone into that. We need to push for more centers of excellence around the country, and this is what is going to be my focus. The last thing we have to focus on is training. It's clear partnerships with these multinationals that are making millions of dollars from our country, but they're not giving back. We need to get them to give a percentage back to grow the sector. Last but not least, I think is a lot of empowerment around women. So we just recently launched a fund. If you go online, it's called the Founders Fund, and we're putting $1 million into the hands of creatives across Nigeria. And the idea is that we're putting 50% of that money into females because we believe, again, they're the engine room for growth. That they make the biggest population of SMEs, they're run by women. Now, if you can empower them and give them the funding, give them the mentorship and the access, trust me, we'll see astronomical growth in that sector and the empowerment of young people.
All right.
And definitely much more security, I think.
As I said, Mr. Maikori, it's the early days. So my last question, I can't discuss with you without going to the issue of Kaduna Victims Coalition. I had a conversation with Professor Chidiode Nkalu about that because his name is listed on that particular release. Your name was also there, Stephen Kefas and the rest of them. And one of the questions I kept doubling down on him, I said, what exactly do you want? And he said, look, there is enough, you guys have enough civil proceedings that you want criminal proceedings against the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. Now you've seen what is going on with him. From one agency of government to the other. Do you feel a sense of justice? And what exactly would you want, besides what Professor Kalu has said, as people who you felt that you were unjustly treated under his administration?
Well, it's unfortunate that this is happening. but also fortunate that's happening at the same time. And the reason why is that, you see, the leadership that we entrust to people must be censored, must be monitored, and there must be a sense of reporting to the people for your stewardship. The things that Malam did to millions and countless people. I mean, after he was jailed, many people came out and told their own versions of their own stories of oppression. I believe that this is what democracy is all about, and this is what justice is all about, which is that, you know, what you sow, you reap. So as a person, it's unfortunate, but as a citizen of Nigeria, I think that is what we need to do with leaders who do not do the right thing and who punish their people for speaking up. But in terms of what needs to be done, I think justice is taking its course. I'm a staunch advocate for the rule of law. And what I asked to have been done to me when he was, you know, oppressing the people is what I asked to be done unto him. Let justice take its course, let the rule of law be adhered to, and let there be no victimization unnecessarily. But otherwise, I think that we will watch what the courts say, we'll watch what unfolds, but it's a lesson to all of us, especially people like us who are trying to go into higher office, is that it's a mandate that should be guarded with all sense of responsibility and a fear of God, because one day we're going to have to give account, and we hope that the account is in our favor.
You know, without speaking for him, he had made the argument that what you wrote or what he put out on your post was instigating and could cause chaos, and that's why I had to swoop in against you, even though I think you took down the post. But we don't have so much time to explore all of it. I just needed to bring his own counter argument. But at the end of the day, the law will take its course.
Well,
yes,
but it's a bit more than that. The truth is that it wasn't, that tweet was not the reason. It was my ardent advocacy against the fact that he had been doing and had actually promoted the killings in southern Kaduna. That was the agitation. The tweet was just a great excuse to do what had already been warned would happen. So I have no regrets whatsoever for the tweet. I did what everybody who's responsible should do. But you see, clearly, I was not the only person. So if it was just me, then you would say it was peculiar. But so, that's what it is. And that's life.
So if I remember very well, you got justice in court, right? And you even got an award. You were awarded some money.
40 million. I won in the Federal High Court, the Court of Appeal, and but he went to the Supreme Court. We are going to win it, and the monies, the proceeds from the money, when we finally get the final judgment, shall be put to the use of journalists and oppressed people who cannot afford representation in jail. That's what I learned in my 4 or 5 days in jail. That people were locked up there. There's a young boy that was there for 3 months, and he could not get out because he had no lawyer, he had no money to pay for a lawyer. So that's what the fund I'm launching we're addressing, people that do not have access to legal aid.
Audu Maikori, businessman, entrepreneur, lawyer, now politician. I wish you the very best. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Ozango. You've been served for Lunchtime Politics.